with liberty and justice for all.
Thanks again for coming. We'll start with item number 1, approve the agenda. Any additions, deletions, or corrections? I have several. We're going to remove item K1, which is the hire of the full-time police officer. That will be removed. We're going to remove item L1 under the attorney's report, the closed meeting for a real estate purchase. We're going to replace that with L1 regarding the encroachment agreement. We're going to correct K2 to state accept retirement of deputy fire chief instead of resignation, change that to retirement. And we're going to move from the consent agenda, number 2, we're going to remove letter D, F, H, and J, move those to new business. Those letters D, F, H, and J will move to new business from the consent agenda. Teresa, anything else?
No, I don't.
Dan? No. Joyce? No. Nope. Nope. Good. Okay. Thank you. I'll entertain a motion to approve the agenda as amended.
I'll make that motion.
Thanks, Cody. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Thanks, Dan. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimously. Linda. On to the consent agenda as amended. As all in your packet. Any other questions on the consent agenda? Okay. I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda with the 4 items removed to new business.
I'll make that motion.
Thanks, Cody. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thanks, Doug. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimously. Visitors council, we have none. Public forum, I have 1 card. If anyone would like to speak during the public forum, I need a card filled out. They're right on the podium as you came in. You fill it out quick and get it to Linda, then we'll get you up there. But we'll start with Amy Costello.
Amy Costello, I'm legal counsel for Casey's General Stores. That's 1 Southeast Convenience Boulevard in Ankeny, Iowa. I do have an issue that is procedural in nature related to our issue that's on the agenda later in the evening. So Casey's has a concern that we feel should be addressed prior to the public hearing, and I don't know if you would prefer to have that discussion now or to wait to ahead of the public hearing, but given that it's procedural in nature, I think Casey's would respectfully request that it be discussed prior to the public hearing.
I think we do it now because we don't want to have a public hearing scheduled.
No, it
Correct.
would just be for
It's
resolution.
just for our discussion.
Oh, prior to the discussion.
Yep.
Yeah.
So I guess now would be the appropriate time if you had a concern to voice it.
Sure. Okay, thank you. So Casey's understands that there are a lot of interested parties in the resolution that's being heard tonight regarding the rezoning on the properties in question under the Casey's rezoning application. And Casey's is in no way looking to complicate the matter further, but there has been a concern that was raised following Monday night's commission meeting, and we'd like to bring that forward at this time. On Monday night during the meeting, Councilmember Borgstrom made a statement during the meeting that he had contacted Jared Sargent, who's a Casey's employee whose job is essentially site selection and negotiations for new stores. He indicated he had contacted them on behalf of the Struthers, and I had not previously connected the dots on the fact that Councilman Borgstrom was also on the Planning Commission. And following the meeting, a concern was raised, and I started doing a little looking into the situation, and I had a conversation with Jared Sargent, who indicated the conversation centered on the negotiations that were ongoing with the various property owners in question, and specifically on behalf of the Struthers as to whether or not they were still in the running, whether there were ongoing negotiations. There was some discussion regarding the offer letter that had been issued to the Struthers, and a comment was made that Councilmember Borgstrom had a copy of that letter, and Jared's takeaway from the call was that Casey should sort of reopen the negotiations process with the Struthers, or it would not be looked upon favorably. He had a takeaway that the tone and tenor of the conversation led him to feel as though Councilman Borgstrom was disappointed or upset with the fact that Casey's would consider moving forward if we could not secure the final lot on the block, and that perhaps we should consider another location if we could not get that site. Like I said, there was a concern voiced, and just with the number of different parties that are interested in this, Casey's concern is that at this point, we would respectfully request, for the sake of a clean record and a question, so that there be no question at the end of this proceeding, that Councilman Borgstrom recuse himself from further deliberation and voting on this issue and the conditional use permit. Essentially, the involvement in the conversation makes us uncomfortable as to whether or not we want to get to the end of this evening and have everyone here and in the community have no questions about the result that's reached tonight, and based on the concerns that have been voiced, we would respectfully make that request.
Okay, give it consideration when we get to that item.
Thank you.
Thank you. Do I have another card? Diane? Want to state your name and address?
Diane O'Brien, 122 West Main Street, Casson, Minnesota.
Okay, thank you.
First concern is the fair and putting a decorative sign pointing in the direction of my business on Main Street on Mantorville Avenue. I've done it every year, both at fair time and Marigold Days. Is there any objection to that by the city council? In the grass, should I put it somewhere specific? Talk to the lumber yard, they don't even know if they own that little piece of grass on the south side of the tracks.
Because we can't accommodate all requests,
Right.
we have not in the past approved signs on city property, but there is certainly railroad right-of-way and MnDOT right-of-way that we have no control over.
So the garage sale signs are okay and nobody cares about those?
I think they just do it.
I think that's on.
Oh, it's that policy. Ask,
Yeah.
or, you know,
Yeah.
to ask for forgiveness after,
Yeah,
Because we can't accommodate everyone.
Yeah.
We have not approved
Okay,
signs on city
it's
property.
probably gonna go up, and it's gonna be a big one, it's gonna be hand designed, and it'll be, you know, tactful and all that stuff. I'll just tell you it's gonna go there.
It's a good idea.
Hopefully the police department doesn't steal this one like they did last year.
Okay.
Okay? My other real question is regarding that building, Old City Hall, in which I have an apartment on the 4th floor, and I in fact use a greater portion of it for my personal use rather than business use. I have it homesteaded, and I brought my 2019 valuation so you can see that it in fact is homesteaded. So I didn't bother with asking anybody until now, because my utilities are so outrageous. And some girl in the office shared the rates with me. So apparently I'm paying commercial rates on a building that I use, the majority of it, as personal, homesteaded, you know, home.
Okay.
Does that make sense? Am I?
Well, there's nothing that we can do right here about it. I would
No, but
make
she
an
told
appointment.
me I had to bring it to the council,
Oh.
whoever it was.
Yeah.
You gotta maybe
Yeah.
get some bad information. I would
You
make an
can-
appointment.
You can provide that information to me.
Just come into the office?
Sure.
Do you want to take this here, or what?
Well, I do not want to take your
All right.
copy, no.
I have
You
others.
can fax them to me, you can scan them and send them to me, you
Okay.
can drop off copies, that would.
I'm just assuming I'm being overcharged.
Okay.
That's my point.
Yep, no, I would.
And have
agree to
been
that.
I would
since,
certainly take a
and
look
have
at it.
been since, you know, moving in there,
Okay.
Yeah,
which was
I'll
like
take a look at it.
2014.
4 years ago.
So,
Yeah, get with Teresa and
I'll
see if we
take
can
a
get it
look
figured
at
out for you.
okay, that'd be lovely.
Okay.
The other real beef is this housing registration certificate that rental property owners are required to have. I've had an issue with this since owning rental property. Why is it I have to pay police, you know, pay through taxes, the police department, and then pay this too? And then if it's late, I get fees added on. I'm just asking if anybody
Yeah,
knows why.
That is in our city ordinance, and I can discuss that with you as well.
Okay, it's kind of double dipping on my, you know, my taxes, is the way I feel about it. I'm just telling the truth, I'm being honest.
Sure.
You know, as a
I'll be
multi-business owner in town, every time I turn around, I'm paying through the nose for public stuff.
Yes.
I'd just like everybody to know that it upsets me.
Okay, we
Okay.
know. All right, thank you.
All right, that's
Appreciate
all I
it.
have.
Yep, thanks,
I'll
Dan.
see you then, in your office.
Yeah.
Okay,
That'll be fine.
very good, thank you.
Mhm.
Did you have any questions for me?
Not right now, I'll give it
Okay.
to Teresa and we'll figure that out.
All right.
Phil Johnson.
I'm not sure if I have a lot to say, it's just unlike me. Just
Put the music.
talking about the whole process with Casey's, and I'm speaking on behalf of 7 of the 8 property owners on that block, that, you know, we've had probably a 2-year period of negotiation with them, and from most of the people, obviously I can't speak for Jerry, we've had very fair offers, and I think everybody is on board. We can't really see what's not to like with the whole project. I guess it's a great spot for it. And, I guess Casey's has done everything that we've asked in terms of questioning and that kind of stuff. And I guess we're speaking for the property owners. We're just recommending that this pass and become a real thing. We've got to be the only city of 6,000 or plus that has one gas station that you can buy more than pop at. I mentioned Monday night that, you know, since this has kind of been rumored a couple of years ago, I guess, I can't say hundreds, but many people have asked me, when is this going to happen? Is this, what's taking so long? Just one of the owners who is in the process. So, from our perspective, it's a great thing, and we like to see it go.
Thanks, Phil. Robert Brown.
Good evening. I'm with the Casey's thing.
You just state your name and address for
Okay,
Yep.
sorry.
No,
Robert
sorry.
Brown, Manorville. Okay, my mother owns 2 lots in the Casey's purchase agreement thing there. And I guess a lot of it is probably repeat of what I said on Monday. The employment, I don't know if Casey's is gonna be a 24/7 or a limited, but it's gotta be, probably 40 people will have jobs. For the city of Casson, I cannot understand why there's people that don't like this idea. And the tax revenue from Casey's should be something that you all should look at and think about. And for the city of Casson to keep growing, you gotta let businesses come in here. And on Monday's meeting, I was told that the vision of Casson was passed to make that avenue part of a commercial district or whatever. And so the first person you get in your new vision is Casey's knocking on the door wanting to move in. And I guess I just don't see why you ain't welcoming with open arms to have them come in here and build. And during the negotiations with Casey's, for my personal thing, they treated me with utmost respect. You know, I was not harassed or anything. It was and they offered me fair, because we went back and forth. I'm not saying the first offer was whatever, but you know how it is. You go back and forth, and I accepted a deal from my mother that I thought was fair and just, and they apparently did too, because, you know, and I don't know, I guess that's about it. I just think that Casey's would be a really good fit for Casson, and maybe that'll help bring other businesses in here, which brings tax revenue to a city, which is very important as a city. So anyway, thank you much.
Thanks, Robert, appreciate it. Okay, that's all the comment cards I have, so we'll move on to committee reports. Number 1, Park Board minutes. Those are in your packet. Are there any questions on the Park Board minutes? Doug was at the meeting, so if you have any questions on the minutes, Dan?
Just the one word, it says, "and friend." Do they got to pinpoint to, do we know who we're hiring?
Oh,
You
yeah,
know what I
two
mean?
names
There was
were
2 names
said.
there, I read it, but then it says, on the, tonight it says "and friend." I just wanted to clarify,
Yeah, I can tell you that the 2 friends, both have the last name of Fierstead. I can't tell you their first name. One was a female and one was a male. but they both
I was
had
just
to-
curious when it said just and friend, I just wanted to clarify it.
Yeah.
So we weren't just hiring.
Yep, in the minutes, it has the two names.
I did see
Whichever
that,
one.
but I just was,
Has the note.
Okay.
was only.
Any other questions for Doug on that?
Clarification.
Okay, we'll move on to letter
Well,
A.
I think we do want the motion to
No, that's not
approve,
moving on,
I'm
letter A.
sorry.
Yep, letter A.
Oh.
Under that, yep.
Oh,
Letter A,
okay.
entertain a motion to approve the hiring of Josh Gilbertson and friend for garbage collection during the festival.
I'll make that motion.
Thanks, Doug. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Thanks, Lonnie. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimously, Linda. Letter B, approve a tree lighting ceremony at Veterans Memorial Park, November 30th, 2018, at 6:30 p.m. I'll entertain a motion to approve that.
I'll make that motion.
Thanks, Lonnie. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Dan, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimously, Linda. Number 2, Arena Committee notes. Those are also in your packet. If there are any questions, one of the things to point out for the public that's here and people listening, I think a couple of things to point out there. We did get a junior A team, which is 18 to 20-year-old males that'll be playing hockey here on a semi-professional league starting this fall, the Casson Vipers. So that's kind of a new exciting thing, gonna bring some traffic to town. And then just to point out too, the numbers at the arena, the highest they've been since 2009. There's been 58,095 patrons, over the last 9-month period. So the ice arena is bringing people to town and creating activity for our business community, so just want to point that out. Yeah?
Just for future, can somebody type it out so it's a little easier to read?
Couldn't read how he's writing?
No. I'm not trying to pick on him, because mine ain't no good either, but.
Okay, so any other questions on the arena? Okay. On to 3, the Planning Commission. We have a resolution for the Kaysville Edition final plat. The resolution is in your packet. Anything from the Planning Commission that they would like to share? Meeting on Monday? Everything's here, it's all.
I think it's a go.
Okay.
You know, we all kind of agreed, we did the due diligence on it, and I believe, right, Lonnie?
Yep. I agree.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion to approve the resolution approving the final plat of the Kaysville Edition.
I'll make that motion.
Thanks, Ryan. Do I have a second?
Second.
Fully, any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimously. Just closing it. Okay, on to letter B, resolution for home federal amendment. That's So this is a resolution amending a final plan for the property known as 502 Matterville Avenue South. It's a planned unit development with the Daniels Plaza Home Federal Building Bank Building. Was there anything else to share with us that wasn't in the packet on that? It seemed pretty straightforward for everything I went through, so. Okay, if there's no objections, I'll entertain a motion to approve the resolution amending the final plan for the property known as 502 Matterville Avenue South.
I'll make that motion.
Lonnie, do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Stan, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimously. To letter C, resolution approving a variance for 702 21st Street Northeast. Anything from Planning Commission on that?
It's such a weird lot. It sits funny, but when I'm gonna say the same thing I did Monday night. I lived in Northeast. I wanted to add a 3rd stall garage. I went to planning and zoning. They said I could not do it because it was inconsistent with the neighborhood. I agreed. I asked them again just if I could build a slab. They allowed me to do that. This lot is almost the same way, only if you build a small house that's gonna fit on that lot, it will not be consistent with the neighborhood. I think we have to allow this variance just to allow a house that looks conforming to the neighborhood. This isn't something out of the unusual, but to make the house fit, to jostle it around, it would look odd in the neighborhood. So I think it's a perfect fit for this. That's just my view.
Yeah, and I think the other part of the commission was too, is that it's not necessarily gonna pop up
Right.
often, a lot like this.
And
Do we have to reference any specific feet in this?
I
one?
was just gonna add that, thank you for
Okay.
asking. We will, make the clerical, correction to add for an 8-foot variance from the rear yard setback. So we will make that clerical correction before the mayor's commission.
Okay. Any other comments?
The 8-foot variance now, what was it supposed to be a 20, and it's gonna be 12 now?
25
on the rear?
and it will be 17.
Okay, that's,
So it would be an 8-foot variance.
Okay. Any other, Dan?
this one sounds, quite a few of them went through and looked what it looked like, and it lines up a lot better this way than, and looks more like the
Yep.
neighborhood.
I agree.
All right, entertain a motion to approve resolution approving a variance for the 702 21st Street Northeast property with the notation that it'll be changed to 8 foot, and then the resolution is signed.
I'll make that motion.
Stand up, second.
I'll second it.
Thanks, Doug. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried unanimously, Linda. On to letter D, resolution for Casey's rezone.
Yeah.
So there was a application by Casey's for a rezone of lots 2 through 8 of block 31. I have resolutions, prepared for that. The planning commission's recommendation was that lots 1 through 8 of block 31 are rezoned to C2 zoning from the R2 that it currently is. I did have a conversation with Casey's attorney after the meeting. She expressed, that if there is, that if the council does not want to approve the rezone for the one lot that wasn't included in Casey's application, because it's still owned by Mr. and Mrs. Struthers, I believe, that the council still consider the rezone of the lots 2 through 8. Like I said, the planning commission recommended that all 8 of those lots be rezoned. They're just saying, if you're not intending to do all 8, would you consider separately our request of just lots 2 through 8, that they have the property interest in, or they have the option to purchase. She had also requested that the rezone be contingent upon Casey's actually exercising those options with the sellers. If they don't, their application for a conditional use is not granted, then they will not, they likely won't be actually buying those lots. So they're asking just simply that the rezone be contingent upon approval of the conditional use as well. So I have resolutions prepared, going each way, lots 1 through 8 per planning commission's recommendation, and lots 2 through 8, just Casey's application. So I have those. If you'd like to see them, I can pass them down.
So the way I understand it, they would prefer to not include Mr. Struthers' lot. They would prefer just to have it contingent on having an accepted conditional use permit.
I think, yes, they absolutely would like it contingent upon the conditional use permit application. And I don't think they have a preference one way or the other as far as whether it includes lot 1 or not. I think that the comment was, or the concern was, if you're not gonna do all 8 lots, please at least consider, the 7 that we're requesting. So it's not, they don't have a preference one way or the other. They just, are asking the council to consider it, if they're not going to rezone all 8 lots. Is that, am I being accurate?
Yes, could I add one comment on our request for the contingency? That would simply be to protect our sellers. If we're not able to move forward or we don't get through the CUP phase, we don't want to leave them in a worse position where they're in the non-conforming use in their lot. So,
Okay. Could get
we
that.
have no opinion as to, no stake as to lot 1.
So, how can we, that's what we do there, but as far as rezoning the lot 1, to me personally, it doesn't make sense. If it's not gonna be part of the project or so, I don't know how we would, why we would do that. I don't know why we would.
I did share with Attorney Left an additional concern. So, the property owner of Lot 1, did not have, receive a notice that their lot would be a subject of that public hearing. So they did not have an opportunity to obtain counsel for themselves in regards to, the rezone of their lot. So that would be another reason to exclude Lot 1 from the rezone.
Okay. All right. So we have a recommendation for planning and zoning for lots 1 through 8. Personally, my opinion is if we were gonna entertain this, it's lots 2 through 8. I can't see rezoning lot 1 to commercial when it's not part of the project or has a purchase agreement in place or whatever the other 7 have in place. I don't see how we put that on. But I know there's been the talk of spot zoning or reverse spot zoning, we've got to pick a lesser of 2 evils. I think not including that, because basically we would be zoning something commercial that, again, would be non-conforming use, basically just build a property.
Not only that, we wouldn't be locking Jerry in.
Right. Anybody else have any comments?
Well, my comment is the discussion for planning commission, it was all about the whole block. The recommendations on that. So, I do believe if you wanna be legal about it, the discussion should go back to planning commission.
That actually is not necessary. The public hearing was heard, a recommendation was forwarded to council, and then council is within their rights to act.
Well, then I would guess that the recommendation would have to be voted on.
As far as block 1 through 8?
Yep.
Mr. Mayor, I apologize. Can I renew our comments?
Yeah, I'm gonna get to that.
Board discussion,
Yep.
thank you.
Yep. So we did have a concern brought up as far as during our public forum. What's your opinion? You're our legal counsel.
On the request that Mr. Borgstrom recuse himself?
Correct.
If what Casey's attorney, it's, Amy, right? What Amy is saying is accurate, I do think that Mr. Borgstrom has a conflict.
If not, so before you answer something, you should probably get both sides.
I said if.
Okay, I'll address that. I got contacted from Jerry and his wife, as city council, stopped over there. And he had been contacted by one of the other owners stating that the project's going ahead and going around it. That is, if I remember right, Jerry, can you confirm that? The project was going on without them, no matter what. Them stating that they better get on board or they're gonna lose out. So basically after that, I saw the letter that they had of I can't remember when it was dated, apologize. So my concern was that we didn't have a building permit, I hadn't heard anything, so I called, what's his name again?
Jared Sargent.
Jared, talked to him, told him up front I was on city council, and my main concern is I asked him who he was in contact with at the city council. And at that time, he said he did not want to say, and he would not discuss anything on any type of dollar amount, which I didn't ask for. I said, and I only asked, are negotiations done then with everybody? He said yes. So ago, and then the next planning commission meeting, I directly asked our city administrator if she had contact with Casey's, in which she would not answer. Right, Lonnie?
Oh, I will say that's correct. I did not discuss it at that meeting.
Which I was fine with. I mean, I don't have a problem with that.
Well, you could have asked me instead of me.
Well, you get mixed reviews up here, so. So otherwise, that's it. I didn't represent them, I didn't throw an offer out, I didn't ask for anything to come back to the table, and I did not state anywhere that this wouldn't happen. I have no idea. So unless they can actually factually prove it with something, I did not state any of that.
Did you call on their behalf?
I
You-
called
you
the
had
city,
a copy?
on my behalf, the city council, wanting to find out who they're talking to at city council, or city hall.
My concern with that is, did you get the approval from the rest of the city council to represent the city?
There was no specific question on that.
I mean, if I was going to talk to Casey's, I sure would have asked the rest of you if I could be able to talk to Casey's.
There was nothing going on. There was no information, there was nothing going on, right? Nobody knew anything.
It's kind of a gray area.
Can I add something further?
You have to ask the mayor first.
Sure.
I'll just say that our concern was originally raised by the comment that was made Monday night, and the comment was Jerry Struthers and his wife have reached out to me as city council and have talked to me quite often about this, and I actually made a phone call for them to Casey's to see if they didn't know if they were in the running on any of this anymore or not, which I did state to whoever I talked to. I did state that I was city council up front, which I do not represent Jerry. So he indicated during the meeting that he didn't represent Jerry, but at the time he called to see if they were still in the running. And I have reviewed an email created by Jared contemporaneously with that phone call, at which time he did not realize that Councilman Borgstrom sat on the planning commission, where he said, hey, this happened, here's the content of the conversation. I did not produce any information, I was uncomfortable with the situation, advised me if I need to do anything differently, which circulated internally. So, I mean, that was created contemporaneously with the phone call. So that's all I have to add. I guess our concerns are pretty clear that there's conversation going on, there's a number of interests here. There's a lot of, we would like the decision to be made on the record that's made at planning and zoning, for as far as individuals having separate conversations with additional information. I think that's a concern to Casey's, and I think it's a concern to other interested parties as well.
Well, and also, I wasn't, ready for anything like that. I think I got some advice before.
I don't understand that.
That, you're the one who's mentioned to me to say that if I had any involvement in that, or anything that would have a conflict.
Yeah, I called you before the planning commission meeting, and I told you that I had a concern
Right.
about whether or not you had a conflict with that.
I've never, I don't think ever thought that I was going to represent them.
I'm more concerned about the representation that you made to Casey's, that you're calling on their behalf.
And
And
if
the
I
additional
said that,
information-
that's not what I called for city council, because I wanted to know who was talking and saying this was a goal.
I don't think that's your place to do.
Okay. Then obviously somebody should have spoke up when I specifically asked if they had been in contact with somebody. Because obviously you must have known that I was being asked by people. Well, I mean, that's fine.
Yeah,
Move on.
and that's kind of a gray area too, because, if a business does contact the city administrator and ask for confidentiality in a situation until it becomes a request for something, I don't have any problem with that.
I don't either, but I didn't get that same night either. I asked if she had been in contact and just sat there. So.
Okay. We have the recommendation of the attorney. What are you going to do? I'm sorry?
For the record, so is there a recommendation that there be a recusal, just for the record, so it's clear?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. And the response, I didn't hear.
You'll see.
Okay.
Okay, okay, so we have on the floor here, the discussion on lots 1 through 8. Recommendation from planning and zoning was to rezone lots 1 through 8. I've stated my personal opinion. I don't believe that I would follow that recommendation. And that if it was to continue discussion of it, it's lots 2 through 8. Doug, you were gonna say something more? Or,
Well, I guess I don't know if it's 1 through 8 or 2 through 8. If you change the whole block, that the same thing is gonna be for the one residential block, lot left.
But I think it fits the situation better. It frees Jerry from becoming a commercial lot. It fits the situation better. If it did go back to planning and zoning, I'm sure they would all agree with this.
we can't read their minds with their
No,
own.
you can't.
Well, and Monday night, it was a no-brainer to do the whole block.
It was actually a 4-3 vote, so it was a split vote.
I like the 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7, and 8. It fits the situation.
I think there was a lot of misunderstanding in the board itself, just by the way, you know, there were strong feelings for one way and strong for the other, and several who didn't have a feeling at all, didn't come up with anything. It's real hard to read what the real thoughts were.
And that's why they sent it here, from what Dwayne said, let's just send it through 1 through 8, and the council decide.
Yep.
No, it was the best fit.
Right.
What he brought up, and which Lonnie agreed, it's a no-brainer.
At the time. This is a better fit.
So then if this is a better fit, everybody's fine with, I mean, what's gonna happen? I mean, you can go one way or another. If you can find somebody to buy that small parcel as a commercial property, he might still be able to get his $200,000 that Casey's offered him, maybe more. But in that island out there, and he wants to try to sell that house as a residence, which way do you think it'll go there on this market value? I mean, it is spot zoning, it's reverse spot zoning.
Technically, perhaps not, because you just adopted a comprehensive plan where your future land use does reflect commercial zoning there. So in this case, it is your future land use that you're actually zoning for.
And yeah, okay. As far as, to your point, Cory, when you're saying which is better, which is worse, if it was left residential and the homeowner wanted to sell it for commercial, they could always request that it be rezoned commercial at that time.
Correct.
That'd be their, then it would be their choice to do residential or commercial, depending on what seller they could, or buyer, purchaser they could find.
Let me ask you.
Or if we did commercial right away, then to get it rezoned back to residential.
We wouldn't zone
Wouldn't
back
really
to
be
residential.
Possible, because it wouldn't be in line with your comprehensive.
Right, I understand that, but I'm just saying.
This way they
There's
have
more
a
options
choice.
this time.
They have a choice this way.
Yeah, I mean, going C2, they're done doing anything. You instantly put them in non-conforming.
Right. Leaving them residential gives them choices. It doesn't lock them in.
But like I'm asking is, which part of the property value are you expecting them to see on their end when they sell it? Because over where I'm at, years ago, we were zoned industrial, and the residences asked to be rezoned because they were having a hard time getting financing. Some of them were because they were zoned industrial, they couldn't get a mortgage on industrial property. So, and if I remember right, out in South Fork, back when Matt was mayor, we had an issue with people coming to us that couldn't get financing for rental land and put a house on that. Then we had to work with the zoning out there, so we purchased the land because of a situation with mortgages. So if we were to get changed to C2, which is what is the recommendation right now, they would have a tough time, I think, I don't know, I'm not a banker, of possibly selling something who want to get a mortgage. If it was sold C2, which is the recommendation.
I agree with that, that's why I'm saying 2 through 8 makes more sense.
Yes.
And I'll go back to 2 through 8. I don't believe we held a legal meeting on 2 through 8 because we had 4 parcels that are asking to be rezoned, and we didn't address each one.
Wasn't there a public hearing
Yeah.
on the rezone of?
The public
Yes,
hearing.
and they were all listed in the notice of the public hearing, and the neighboring property owners all received that notice
say anything about
enumerating
that.
those lots.
Melanie, did we have an individual vote on each application?
There was one application from Casey's
For all of them?
for lots 2 through 8.
I'm saying.
Doug, anything?
I'm just thinking of how smooth everything went the block north of it. I don't want anything like that going.
Right. I think
We
we're
only get one chance to, you know.
I think we're a long way from that.
Okay, well,
Yeah, but I understand the concern, but I think we're a long way from that situation. Lonnie?
I'm good with 2 through 8.
Dan, anything?
Enough with that.
Okay. So we have a recommendation from the planning and zoning for lots 1 through 8. I suppose we need to vote on that. Or can we just vote on?
No,
We don't have to.
I don't believe we have to
Okay.
vote on that.
I'll make a motion that we approve a resolution that approves lots 2 through 8 of block 31, Castle, Minnesota, rezone to C2. So I'll make that motion, the motion's on the floor.
I'll second it.
Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
I,
Okay. Abstain? Okay, so passes 3-1 with 1 abstention. Thank you. On to E, the resolution for Casey's conditional use permit.
That was tabled, and that will be, as the public hearing was held, the, determination or recommendation was tabled until their next meeting on August 6th.
Okay. All right, on to F, old business, David Drown Associates, financial updates. That was in
The packet.
the packet.
It showed.
For our information.
Yes.
So it showed a scenario like we'd asked them to put together with projects and without projects with the tax rate. So any questions on that, just shoot Teresa an email and she can get David a
Yep.
new worksheet if we need it. New business, we moved from the consent agenda, letters D, F, H, and J. Mainly just because if there was somebody during public forum that wanted to speak about those, they would have had a chance to do it, because they do involve neighbors and streets and that type of thing. So
Okay.
I brought that up, that's a good idea. So, D is, we just vote on all those as one, or we have to do them all individually?
I'm fine to vote them all in
Okay,
one.
so what it is it's basically all, there's the fireworks permit, which was in the consent agenda, letter D, the resolution certifying delinquent accounts to the county, the resolution waiving park hours for the Festival in the Park special event, and a resolution approving street closings for the Festival in the Park activities. So those 4 were moved from the consent agenda, it's on your packet, it's new business. I'll entertain a motion to approve those.
If there is any, if anybody didn't have any discussion.
So.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you. And is there a second?
I'll second.
Lonnie, any discussion, questions? Okay, all in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, same sign.
Thanks, Chris.
Yep, thanks. Mayor's report, just one thing on the EDA, at the EDA meeting yesterday, just a reminder that on August 2nd, we've got our seated tours coming through town. We'll have 55 developers and builders on a bus tour, and we'll take them around town, show them the different lots and development areas that we have available in Casson. We'll show them our city assets, the library, the pool, the different city facilities, the school, give them a tour of the whole town, and see what they have to say, and hopefully generate some business from that. You'll see a little more activity from the EDA coming up too. All the lots for sale will be listed on the website soon, so that you'll have to click of a button and be able to see all that right away. So Rebecca's working on that as we speak, so. Yeah.
And hopefully a little easier.
Yeah, yeah, and we got a few goats down on the property downtown. They got that grass doubled down yesterday afternoon, so.
Awesome.
On to the administrative report.
So I included, the proposed Dodge County buffer ordinance. WHKS will have one of their specialists take a look at that proposed ordinance, and then, also follow up with the county to see if it's their intention to, enforce that ordinance within the city limits. So, if you do have any comments regarding that, please get those to me. I think we have to have those in the next couple of days. I think Friday is our last day to provide comment on that, so if you individually have comments, if you can send those directly to Dodge County, you can send them to me, and then WHCS will provide comments.
So when I read through that, do they have jurisdiction within our city limits as far as that buffer? I'm not sure if they would.
Well, that is the discussion, and
Okay.
the engineers at WHCS will be taking a look at that and see. That's a very specific law, and so we will be taking a look at how that does apply.
Okay, thank you.
If nothing else, it could apply to property that will come into the city at some point in the future, so.
Okay.
We're taking a look at that.
Well, if it did, that could even interfere with our park property.
Yeah, any waterways we have at all.
Yeah, I
Right.
mean,
The
that buffer.
drainage ditch out here by
Yeah.
Shopko and Hardware Ag,
Yeah.
the whole.
Yep.
Little Lance Park.
Yep, yep. So we will have that figured out and have comments in, by Friday.
Okay. On the K, number 2, we removed number 1. Accept the retirement of Deputy Fire Chief Doug Robinson. We have that letter in the packet. I'll entertain a motion to approve that.
I'll make that motion.
Thanks, Dan. Second?
I'll second it.
Lonnie. Any other questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. I'd like to thank Doug for his 18 years of service. On to number 3, Deputy Fire Chief. Assuming that's to backfill a position that was retired.
Yes.
Any questions by anybody?
I would like more information on, we have 2 deputy fire chiefs. I'd like to have more information on, where we're gonna be missing, I guess, because Krista was hired to take on some of the stuff what Doug had done. And I think Steve has come back and have been taking on some of that stuff too. It's all about the money. We don't need to fill the position because we have 2 deputies. And from what I understand, it's just strictly rumor mill, so take it as you will, that there were 2 because 2 were so similar qualified that they gave it to them both instead of having 1. So I would like a little bit more background on exactly what the duties would be.
Steve, you can answer questions if we have them, if you want to.
You have a comment?
Come on up.
I have one more level of confusion to the titles, because my title is also admin officer, not deputy chief though. So, for historical background, yes, in 2011, the position was, the time when we moved to a chief and 2 deputy chiefs was for the purpose of splitting in loads and duties because of the size of the organization, the current plan at that point, and looking to the forward to the future, there was to subdivide duties so that things to be more easily and handled across that. The term administrative deputy chief and operations chief are internal only to the fire department, doesn't show up anyplace else. If you look at the job description, it's a deputy chief. The duties on that list are the same, but the chief has the authority to subdivide tasks and projects below that, and that's how we've done it in the organization since 2011. So if you look at Deputy Seljan, he's mainly an operations column, so we're dealing, and there is a crossover, so on the admin services side of it, we're looking at planning, budget, records and data, compliance with SOGs and SOPs, MINFERS, public utilities interface, statistics analysis, maintenance and calibration of equipment, making sure all of our apparatus are in good working condition. So we kind of divide a little bit based on levels of expertise. So Deputy Seljan is more in tune with the mechanical aspects of it, making sure the crews are properly fitted and all that, where Doug's role was to deal with all the compliance issues, the fire marshal issue options on there, the ISO, the OSHA, all the training requirements required by the department. So yes, Christy is doing some work for it, but that's that's way outside of the scope of what she was actually intended to do. Her charge, she's for the police department with partial assignment to the fire department to do data entry only. That's what her job was. So all the other analysis was still being done by that other deputy chief. So I don't know if that answers your question or helps you out, but the organization is not getting smaller, it's growing, and our responsibility getting deeper and deeper. Back in 11, when we were still running, we were still doing fire and rescue response. Now we're doing EMR. At that point in time, our call volume was 60 to 70 calls a year. Right now, our call volume is exceeding 400 a year. So that, with the medical call aspect of it, there's no way that one deputy chief could ever handle that. And it's well outside the scope of Chris's capabilities and responsibilities and training to be able to do all that record keeping and compliance and that. So, does that help you with where we're at on this? The cost factor is minimal. I mean, if you look at the budgetary constraint of what's happening on it, our numbers basically have not changed dramatically in a lot since 2011 as far as the dollars. Where you're seeing the dollar change is because of the call volume. That's happened because of call volume and the amount of response, and that's how we're trying to trim it, is by doing the duty crew aspect. So we're not having 30 guys to respond to a medical, we're having 4 guys to respond, or 2 to 4 guys.
So what are the per se duties then?
Okay, I can go through those. I've got an org chart. So there's blended duties across the top. So the chief and the 2 deputy chiefs deal with administrative services, which deals with planning, short and long range planning for the department. Budgetary, looking at replacement upgrades and adds to equipment or services. Records and data entry, looking at that whole scope of what that entails. Looking at compliance, we have to comply to NFPA standards, or our organization wants to comply as best we can to NFPA. MINFERS and NINFERS, so MINFERS is the reporting that Chris is putting the data into, but we have to make sure that it all falls into place and that we're doing the analysis of that data once done. What's our call time? How do we fall into that? Does that help us with ISO ratings and our time stamp on that? Statistical analysis, it all comes into the whole aspect of it. Looking at all the statistics. Where are we at now? Where do we project we're going? Do we need to add more staff down the road because of the call volume? You bring in 50 developers, you can see a huge housing boom. Well, it's not going to be fire calls. I mean, medical calls are going to continue to grow in time. That's where we're looking at the logistics aspect of it. Under the safety aspect, that falls into that whole realm. Are you looking for splitted duties or common duties?
Just, I mean, with either, I mean, I know the fire department's got their own thing. I mean, what exactly, did Doug actually, what was the duties of this person?
So Doug dealt with the blend of planning, budget, records, compliance, MINFERS, reporting to the state of Minnesota, which then went under the feds, statistical analysis. He had sub-officers below him reporting to him for safety aspects. He dealt with NFPA, OSHA, ISO, FEMA compliance, Homeland Security Emergency Management, risk management and pre-planning within the community, so looking at business, what are our risks, how do we do pre-planning for those facilities. He actually had oversight for safety officers, looking at incident safety, training safety, health safety of the team, addressing safety issues with our PPE and SCBA equipment. He actually addressed training, education, and certifications for the department. He actually sits on the Minnesota Fire Certification Board, on that board, so he had direct compliance to make sure we were good with that. Minnesota Board of Fire Training and Education, did the interface with them to help offset our training expenses that we applied for the fire safety account, to help minimize our budget there on training. He interfaced with SEAMS, which deals on the medical side with all our EMS, and making sure the training officers were compliant with training and recording of those records. So that's part of history. And then he also had on top of it, the fire marshal responsibilities. So, it's pretty clear we need another deputy chief besides just one. We need to maintain that status. There's even been conversation in the organization as the city continues to grow and expand, we'll be looking for a third to help subdivide the duties. Chain of command, span of control, there's only so much that the guys can do, and it's all paid on call volunteer time. That little stipend we get annually, we're not logging hours to get paid for everything we do. Falls under the umbrella. The call line is where we make that small $10 an hour. So, more information or?
Nope. Appreciate it.
Okay.
Sounds like you know the job, Steve.
Well, we know the jobs. I'm looking at succession planning. There's other things that go in part of that. So my unofficial title being admin, I deal out with as far as the PIO, Public Information Officer, the pub ed stuff, that type of stuff. So eventually we'll be looking at someone to handle another column to help split things off and divide the task. As the city grows, there's more things that are being asked to be done by the agency, so.
Well, I appreciate the information, because we don't ask. I don't know
Yeah,
anything.
yeah. And there's a lot of things that just happen behind the scene and just get done, and that's what happens. We get it done. That's how the fire services works. Go get it done. People need something, you gotta do it, gotta do paperwork. It happens, so.
Thank you.
Okay?
Thanks, Steve.
You bet.
Oh, any other?
Everything else really.
Any other questions, discussions?
No.
None? That's good. Okay. K3, I'll entertain a motion to approve hiring a deputy fire chief.
I'll make that motion.
Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
All in favor, state aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. That's 5-0. Okay. Motion carries unanimously, Linda. On to L, we replace the closed session with the open meeting here of an encroachment agreement.
I have a copy of an encroachment agreement. This is the property up in Northwest, 903 12th Avenue Northwest. When they built their garage, they built it approximately 2.5 feet into the city's drainage easement on the south side of the lot. What this encroachment agreement does is allow them, the title companies for the individuals who are going to be buying this property have a concern about that encroachment, because the city could come in and say, we're going to take down the 2.5 feet of your garage, we demand that you move that. So the engineer has given the opinion that because there's a 10-foot drainage easement on the south side of this lot, and on the adjoining property, there's another 10-foot utility easement. It's essentially a 20-foot, it's a drainage easement. And it's not actually used for drainage. There's a storm sewer line that's through there. So if there was, if that line had to be replaced, he thought that the remaining 16 feet between the properties would be sufficient to allow the city to do that. So we prepared this encroachment agreement, essentially acknowledging that the city is going to permit this garage as it currently stands to remain in the easement. If the garage comes down at any point, and specifically the south wall of that garage comes down at any point, they have to move it off the easement. But as long as it remains, they can continue to encroach upon that to the 2.5 feet that they have done. I will say there will be a similar agreement regarding the property just to the south. They're not in such a rush because they're not selling right now, but they're hoping to close on this property at the end of the week.
When was this garage built?
Do you know that? 2000.
I actually have the building permits laying on my desk because I looked both of them up. 2006? 8?
Do we have the building inspector signing off on this?
Yes, and you have the zoning administrator, Mr. Martin, signing off on it.
It was something that was missed at the time.
Do we know that it's exactly 2.5 feet? I was gonna look.
The engineer went out.
Okay.
Took a look.
Just,
And
I
I
don't wanna
did
say
use-
it's 2.5 and then,
Yeah.
Also on their application though, they reflected how far they were from their property line, so that's how we were also able to determine that they, because they're only set back 7.5 feet from their property line, that means they were 2.5 feet into the easement.
And I did use the word approximately to it, so if we're off a little bit, it's,
I was,
but if, like I said, if for any reason that garage comes down, the city isn't waiving its right to that easement. If the garage comes down, then they can be forced to leave it.
But not necessarily they would have to move it.
we still have the easement,
I
they take
think
the
to
garage
see
down, they can't build it there.
people buy a house and have it burned down and not be able to put back what they had. When it's when it's an easement of
They have to go
a
through all
storm, I
that.
mean, you're only 3-4 feet in the ground, they don't need 6 foot on each side of that to get it. I wouldn't wanna see someone in that position, you know, buy the house and then end up having, you know.
Yeah, and that's why the buyers want this agreement from the city. They want some assurance
Yeah.
that the city isn't gonna say, you need to move this. This is not it's not a terribly uncommon occurrence.
Yeah.
It happens.
Okay. All right, we have the encroachment agreement. Any other questions for the attorney? Entertain a motion to approve the encroachment agreement permitting the encroachment of the garage.
I'll make that motion.
Thanks, Doug. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
And thank you. Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Pull the same sign. Motion carries unanimously. Linda? Correspondence, that was all in your packet there. And I'll entertain a motion for adjournment. Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Meeting adjourned. Thanks, everybody. 7.
Good thing it was a short meeting, Andy.
I know.
You had an hour one.